regarding first pass effect?
That is correct.
And the first pass effect then of propofol as it goes through the liver, how would you characterize the degree to which it's deactivated?
The overall amount of blood from pharmacokinetic, functionally it is about 99%.
99% of the drug
is removed.
Is removed before it enters
the body.
Okay.
Correct.
So there'd be no reason to expect that oral propofol would have any biological activity in the body.
Correct. May I add one qualifier?
Objection, non-responsive.
Just attempting to explain his
Overruled. You may. We've learned recently that in fact the propofol is metabolized at two different places. This is just recent information. And that is that the lining of the gut itself is very active against propofol. And that's recent information. Because if you were to look at the liver alone, you might expect maybe 5-10% of the propofol to get past it, just looking at the liver alone. But the gut itself, these tissues here, have metabolic activity also. So the 100% first pass metabolism, or 99%, is correct. But from recent information, it's a little more complex, and I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. But based on these fundamental, or what you call first principles alone, in your April 2011 report, you opined that there was zero possibility
Absolutely.
that Michael Jackson had died as a result of oral ingestion of propofol.
Absolutely.
Okay. Based on what you've described here as these fundamental principles that are taught to first-year medical students.
Correct.
Now, at the time that you received Dr. White's report where he suggested oral propofol was a possibility in March 2011, was there also research available through animal studies confirming the first pass effect, in your opinion, that there was zero possibility Michael Jackson orally ingested propofol?
Yes, there was.
Going to the next page of People's 216, it has a header from a publication. It's entitled Interaction Studies and Other Investigations of the Pharmacology of Propofol, parentheses, Diprovan. First, can you describe, this article was published in, is that?
1985.
1985? Okay.
Yes.
And the principal author of this publication, J.B. Glenn, are you familiar with that individual?
Yes, I know him quite well.
And who is that as it relates to research and study and knowledge in regard to propofol?
Dr. Glenn is a scientist at the company which developed propofol as a drug. At the time, the company was called ICI. Stands for Empirical Chemical Industry. It's a British company. And ICI started working on propofol in, I believe, about 1973. And Ian Glenn was responsible for the development, including some changes that had to be made in how the product was created for 15 years. And Ian Glenn is the person who really would deserve the title the father of propofol, because he is the one who saw the possibilities of the drug and pursued development, which has ups and downs, for 15 years to bring propofol to the market.
And is Dr. Glenn considered one of the leading authorities regarding this early research in propofol?
Yes, he did the research.
Now, this particular study that was published in 1985, what did it show?
The study looked at propofol given by various routes of delivery, and it was given to mice, often a good species to start with. And what they found was that intravenous doses of 5 to 15 milligrams per kilogram, that's how much you give depending on the weight of the mouse. Intravenous doses were effective, but even a dose of 300 milligrams per kilogram, 20 times more, 300 milligrams per kilogram, did not cause the animals to go into general anesthesia. They were sleepy, but it's a massive dose, and that was not able to produce general anesthesia. So it showed that a 20-fold overdose given orally to the mouse was not able to produce general anesthesia.
And in 1985, it was published that it was thought to be due to the hepatic metabolism of the drug reaching the liver via the portal circulation.
Yes, which is exactly what I just explained. The portal circulation is that great big blue vein that goes to the liver, and with all the drug through that is subject to hepatic metabolism, and it says here, I'll just read, the failure to induce anesthesia with a massive dose is thought to be hepatic metabolism of the drug reaching the liver via the portal circulation, in other words, first pass metabolism.
Dr. Shafer, going forward with the research in regard to the oral bioavailability of propofol, going to the next page of your presentation, another heading of a manuscript entitled a comparative study of intravenous and rectal administration of propofol in piglets, and this has a publication date of 1991.
Correct.
And you looked at this study as well?
Correct.
And what did this study, published in 1991, show as it relates to the possibility of oral ingestion of propofol being a cause of death in this case?
Well, first, what it shows is that the bioavailability is less than 1%, 0.4. So it shows less than 1% of the drug would be available. It's important to remember that diagram I showed you, because you remember the colon.
Responsive, Judge.
The witness is answering the question. The objection is overruled. You may continue, sir.
It's important to remember the diagram where the colon also drains to the liver, just like the stomach drains to the liver. So the fact that it was rectal administration does not change the applicability to oral administration, because both routes of administration drain to the liver.
And with the finding in this 1991 publication that less than 1% would be available in the body, that again is in line with your conclusion that at least 99% of it is actually processed through the liver and the drug is basically cleaned out of the system.
Correct.
Next, Dr. Shafer, another publication entitled In Vivo Assessment of Intestinal, Hepatic, and Pulmonary First Pass Metabolism of Propofol in the Rat. And this is, again, this is published in 1996?
Correct.
And can you describe this research and the conclusions of this article?
So again, I'll just read straight out here. Large first pass effect in the rat. They actually found 10%, not 1%, but 10% appeared in the systemic circulation in this study. So they found a higher percentage than 1%. It's a different species, but still a small fraction of the administered dose was available through absorption after being administered orally to the rat.
And again, this was published in 1996?
I believe that's correct, yes. Thank you, yes.
And again, even this article then suggesting that at least 90% is cleaned out through the liver through first pass effect.
In this study, yes.
Now, in your review and analysis of this case, did you also refer to particular United States patents that had included their research in the oral bioavailability of propofol?
Yes, I did.
Going to the next page of your slides with a U.S. patent dated, and I'll just reference it by the date of patent, 23rd, 2009. First of all, how did you become aware of this patent, since I assume it was not a published manuscript in a journal?
Google.
And did you review this patent in your assessment of the possibility of oral ingestion of propofol?
Over the summer, yes.
Okay. And what did this patent reveal to you as far as the research findings included in the patent itself?
This patent described a study, also in rats. But in this study here, the bioavailability was less than 1%, 0.23, which would be a quarter of 1%. So it was interesting to me that the one study we saw a moment ago was 10% bioavailability. This study, also in rats, shows less than 1% bioavailability. So there is some study-to-study difference in rats. I don't know why. But it's clear that the overall pattern, that propofol is not orally bioavailability in animals, was demonstrated by this patent.
Going to the next page of People's 216, an additional United States patent. This one dated November 17, 2009. Can you describe this patent and the research that was included in this patent that supported your finding that there is zero possibility of oral ingestion in this case?
Oral ingestion, or is that the terminology you want to use? Oral ingestion?
No. The oral bioavailability of propofol. Thank you, Your Honor.
So the possibility that propofol was consumed and then had an effect on Michael Jackson is ruled out here as well. Because in this study, they gave oral propofol to dogs and to monkeys. And they then measured how much appeared in the blood. And less than 1%, only 0.25%, quarter of a percent, appeared in the blood in dogs and monkeys who were given oral propofol.
So at the time of Dr. Paul White's report, where he suggested that there was oral bioavailability to propofol, and that this could have been...
Dr. White, that it misstates absolutely the evidence.
Just a moment. The objection is sustained. You may rephrase your question.
Well, you reviewed Dr. White's report?
Yes.
In the report, did he suggest that Michael Jackson drank propofol and
Yes.
that could have led to his death?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time of Dr. White's report, dated March 8, 2011, the studies you just summarized from 1985, 1991, 1996, and the two separate patents from 2009, those were all available either in the literature or by doing a Google search?
Correct.